At 8:43 p.m., Stone Tower was a cathedral of glass and light. Cameramen drifted through tuxedos, microphones tilting toward the woman of the hour, Vivian Stone, 35, immaculate in silver. The grand opening of her flagship skyscraper was part gala, part coronation. 1 floor below, Jack Carter pushed a squeaky janitor's cart past the service elevators, navy workshirt ring of keys, steady gaze. At his side walked Emily Nine Freckles' ponytail hugging her backpack. The sitter had canceled. She had permission to wait in the staff room with homework until his shift ended. "You remember the plan?" Jack asked, handing her crackers. Emily nodded. "If anything weird happens, stair C, 2 landings down, hand on the rail. Call you only when I'm safe." "Good." He tapped the brim of her faded red cap. It matched the scuffed little baseball in her bag. Homework, then doodles. Thumbs up if you get bored. She flashed their quiet signal thumb and pinky out, then vanished into the staff room. Upstairs, a string quartet played something soft. Vivian smiled, for cameras spoke about the tower's green credentials, deflected praise with ease. Still, the air felt a degree too tight. Jack reached the ballroom level to restock the restrooms, watching the party in reflection shoes and polished floor chandeliers in chrome. His radio hissed with security chatter. 3 guards at the lobby, 2 near the freight corridor, 1 at coat check. Then a command cracked the music. "Hands where I can see them." 3 figures in dark jackets swept through the north entrance faces, half-masked. 1 fired into the ceiling. The quartet cut off. Crystal rattled. Panic rolled like heat. Jack's hand found his radio. "Security maintenance on 12. Armed intrusion, north entrance. Initiate lockdown. Call 911. He didn't shout or run. He moved decisive quiet toward the service corridor. "Phones and jewelry, bag them," another voice barked. He mapped the building the way a firefighter maps a burning house. The visible exits were a trap. The freight corridor curved behind the stage to stair C, the same stair Emily had memorized. If the break room door had stayed closed, she might not have heard the shot. If. In the service corridor, the noise dropped to a dull thunder. Jack passed a catering cart and a wall panel labeled "Alarm Pull Station." He didn't grab it. Pulling the station would drive people to the very exits the gunman controlled. He needed a distraction with direction. On stage, Vivian's PR chief froze. Guests crouched behind tablecloths. One intruder sighted down his pistol toward the dais. The backstage door eased open. A voice, calm low, brushed Vivian's ear. "Ma'am, service route. Now." She turned. A janitor stood in the spill of work, light eyes, steady hand extended. He didn't look heroic. He looked like someone who solved problems for a living. Jack shoved the empty catering cart hard across the stage lip. The clatter exploded through the speakers. Heads snapped toward the noise. In the 3-second wedge that opened, he guided Vivian and 2 guests through the curtain into the passage. "Stay low, hand on wall," he said. "We're going to stair C. Don't run." "We can pay them," a guest gasped. "Just tell them Ma'am Jack said not unkindly, money makes bad people louder. Left turn." He counted steps and door waits, all the math that matters when panic wants to drive. At the corner, he keyed his radio. "Security, Mizzy Stone in service, moving to stair C. Confirm clear path to 2. Static. Then copy path to stair C, clear to 10. NYPD en route 3 minutes. They reached the metal door. Jack eased it open, listened for the hollow echo that says empty, then ushered the trio inside. Down 2 landings, he told the guests. "Inside rail. You'll see signage for the assembly area." Vivian didn't move. "What about the other securities working the south exit? We split the flow, or we jam 1 door. And I have to find my daughter. She's here. She knows the route," he said, "but I don't leave it to chances I can close myself." "Go," she said. He went, back through the service hall, past the alarm pull station, again tempting wrong. A candle had tipped near the ballroom door. Smoke fluttered. Jack smothered the flame with a wet bar towel, then cut down the staff wing toward the break room. Empty. His breath snagged, then eased on the table a note in 9-year-old print, Dad stair C. 2 landings down. "I'm okay." Love E. He touched it once, then moved. 2 landings down, tucked against the wall. Emily sat with her knees to her chest and her backpack clutched tight. She didn't cry. She held up their lighthouse signal and whispered, "I did the plan." "You did perfect," he said, kneeling. "Quick check, no blood, no shivering she wasn't controlling. We're going down slow and quiet. Hand on the rail." "Yeah," she nodded, then glanced at his shirt pocket. "Dad, your heart's loud." "It'll quiet down," he said. "Hearts do that when they know what to do." They moved together, counting steps, passing floors where office workers lined the stairs. "Use the south exit," Jack told them softly. "Not the lobby." On 10, a young security guard met them. "Sir, are you the one moving VIPs?" Some Jack said. "NYPD, couple minutes. Intruders are hugging the north entrance. They don't like the service doors." "Good." Jack squeezed Emily's shoulder. "Go with Officer Rosa," the guard said. "Officer Rosa, I need 30 seconds. I'll be right behind you." Emily's eyes flicked up. "Dad." 30 seconds, he promised. He jogged back to 12 enough to check the south route to swing a crash bar and wedge a door so people didn't bottleneck. A glance into the ballroom, 1 intruder pacing gun low, another stuffing bags, the third shouting at a server. Jack chose not to be a hero in the way that gets remembered for the wrong reasons. Sirens climbed the glass. Over the PA, a calm voice. "This is NYPD. Stay where you are. Officers are entering the building." Jack exhaled, rejoined Emily and Rosa, and rode the wave to street level. Night air, blue and red light, paramedics, voices too loud after too much silence. Vivian stood near the curb, silver under a blazer. When she saw Jack and Emily, she stepped forward despite the cameras. "Thank you," she said. "You should get checked by EMS, ma'am." Jack replied. "Vivian," she corrected. "What's your name, Jack?" He glanced at Emily. "We need to get home." Vivian looked from the little girl with brave eyes to the man who moved like the building's bones belonged to him. 100 questions crowded her tongue. "Who are you? How did you stay so calm?" But he was already guiding his daughter into the stream of evacuees. "Jack," she called. He looked back. "We'll talk," she said. It sounded more promise than request. He gave a small nod, maybe, and vanished into the siren glow. Behind her, a producer whispered, "That janitor. Who is he?" Vivian didn't answer, because the person who had saved her empire walked away as if applause had nothing to offer him. By morning, Stone Tower wore a bruise of satellite trucks and camera cranes. Reporters practiced solemn faces in the reflection of the revolving doors. Headlines scrolled on phones: "Janitor Hero Saves CEO." "Terror in Midtown." "Calm Custodian Leads Evacuation." Inside, floral arrangements stood lopsided, and a chandelier crystal lay under a velvet rope like a lost tooth. Vivian Stone stepped through the lobby with a blazer over her silver gown from the night before. No speeches now, no cameras on her queue, just a crisis table on the mezzanine and a row of department heads waiting for decisions. Delia, her PR chief, started first. "We need a narrative. Police have 3 suspects in custody. Security footage is clean, and there's a hero everyone wants to meet. We book morning shows. Human interest." You shake the janitor's hand. "Stone Tower becomes resilience." "Names?" Vivian asked. Jack Carter said, Torres head of security tapping a report. "Night maintenance. 10 months on payroll. No complaints. Clean safety record." "Is he all right?" He clocked out at 2:07 a.m. Declined medical. Delia slid a press schedule across the table. "If we control the frame, donors feel safe. Board feels safe. You feel safe." Vivian looked out over the lobby, the guards talking softly, a barista giving away coffee to rattled staff, a florist writing a vase. "Put safety first," she said. Overtime for anyone who worked through the incident. Hazard pay for the team that assisted evacuation. Offer counseling on site. And the hero Delia asked. "I'll thank him in person," Vivian said. "Privately. If he wants cameras, we talk. If he doesn't, we don't borrow his face. But We can tell a true story without owning a person, Vivian said, and the room quieted. Schedule a brief today. That's all. Across town, a skillet hissed in a narrow kitchen that held exactly 2 people and a dog-eared calendar. Jack Carter poured pancake batter while Emily stacked strawberries into a little red tower. I saw your building on TV, she said. Mrs. Lang's mom texted my teacher. They said our janitor is famous. Famous lasts about 15 minutes, Jack said, sliding a pancake onto a plate. Then someone else does something loud. Are we going to be on TV? Nope. Because of the plan, because some attention keeps you safe. He set the syrup down. Eyes on school, not on us. Emily frowned, thinking it through the way she always did. So, we can tell Mrs. Lang I did the plan. You can tell her you listened, he said. That's the important part. The phone rang. Unknown number. Jack let it buzz, then watched a voicemail arrive. A second call followed this one from the building's main line. He answered, Mr. Carter. This is HR at Stone Properties. Ms. Stone would like to thank you personally. There's also a monetary award we'd like to present on behalf of Ma'am Jack, said Polite. I appreciate it. I don't need a ceremony. A wire transfer is fine. Or a check. You're a company hero. I'm a night guy who knows the stairwells, he said. If it's all the same, I'd rather keep my shift. Silence. Papers shuffled. We can certainly note your preference. Miss T. Stone also requested a short meeting. Could you come in at 11? Jack glanced at Emily's backpack and the clock. I'll be there at noon. Need to take my kid to school. At 11:58, he stepped off the service elevator with his keys clipped to his belt and his shirt pressed as well as a dollar iron could manage. The lobby had been swept, the bruise fading. A handful of journalists remained outside talking to a camera as traffic washed around them. Darius, the building manager, met him by the security desk. You stirred up a week's worth of board memos, he said with a grin that didn't quite hide relief. You good, Fine Jack said. Your kid, in class. Darius lowered his voice. PR is itching to make you a poster. If you don't want that, say it straight. Don't let him talk you into a smile you don't own. Noted. They rode to the executive floor. Glass quiet art that looked like storms paused mid-thunder. Vivian's office door was open. She stood beside it, hair-tied back sleeves rolled a small bandage across one knuckle he hadn't noticed last night. Mr. Carter, she said, Jack is fine. Vivian is fine. She returned. She extended a hand that didn't tremble. He shook it, brief, steady. Thank you, she said, not playing to an audience. You moved people away from a killing zone. You got me to a stairwell when my team froze. You protected my building. There's no version of last night where those sentences aren't true. I did my job, he said. You did more than your job? The more is still part of it, Jack replied. Buildings don't keep people safe. People keep people safe. The building just helps if you know where to push. Vivian's mouth tilted as if the line intrigued her. HR said you declined a public ceremony. We can skip cameras. But I'd like to make a deposit to your account. Hazard compensation. Spread it, he said. The bar staff that stayed calm the guard on 10. The kid from catering who kept pointing guests to the south exit. Don't make it about me. I can do both, she said. Company match for any overtime last night plus a personal thank you. He studied her for a beat. Then put my part toward the staff relief fund. Anyone who needs a week to get their feet under them because they're still shaking, cover it. Vivian nodded once, already assigning tasks in her mind. Done. Delia hovered in the doorway with a PR folder and a hopeful smile. Vivian waved her off without looking, then returned to Jack. One more thing, reporters have requested your name. We're not obligated to share it. Keep my last name off the air, he said, and no photos of my kid. Both will be protected, she said, not bargaining. You have my word. Only then did his shoulders drop a notch. She gestured to a pair of chairs that looked expensive and surprisingly comfortable. Can I ask you something unrelated to paperwork? You can ask. How did you stay calm? Most people need instructions in a crisis. You issued them. Jack considered the ceiling for an answer that wouldn't open doors he kept closed. You don't need training to know one thing, he said at last. Panic narrows hallways. If you widen them, give people a next step they'll walk through fear instead of freeze in it. That sounds practiced, she said. It's a good sentence to keep around. He stood. If you don't need anything else, I should get back to work. She rose too. I would like one more conversation when you're off shift. Nothing formal, no cameras, 30 minutes, tomorrow at 10. You can say no. He almost did. The safest word in his vocabulary was no. Then he thought of Emily's red cap on a stair-step and the way this woman had moved when the room went bad forward, not backward. 10:30, he said. I walk my daughter in at 8. I'm back by 10. 10:30, she agreed. Delia slipped in as Jack left folder at her chest. Please tell me he'll go on morning sunrise. No, Vivian said. Then at least let me pitch a quote, our brave custodian. Draft something honest and short, Vivian said. No adjectives he didn't choose. And set up the fund he asked for. He asked for a fund. For other people, Vivian said, surprised by how much that moved her. Yes. Jack took the service elevator down. Darius fell into step in the corridor. How'd it go? Fine. They offer you a superhero cape, a mop, and a key ring work, Jack said, but there was no bite in it. On the street, the last news van pulled away. He texted the sitter a simple, on time. He texted Emily a thumbs up and a baseball emoji. She sent back their lighthouse signal. At the corner bodega, the owner slid him a coffee and didn't take money. On the house, Jackie. Saw you on the internet. Calm like winter. Your little girl, she okay? She's good, Jack said. And I was just walking people to a door. Not everybody knows which door the owner said and waved him off. Back at the tower, Jack returned to the work he trusted, checking crash bars, resetting an exit magnet, noting a loose hinge on a stair door with the quiet satisfaction of someone who believes in small, correct things. He traced the run they'd taken the night before, not to relive it, but to make sure the path would be easier the next time someone needed it. On 12, he paused beside the alarm pull station he hadn't used when his hands itched to. A choice leaves a print on a man. He touched the enamel gently, then kept moving. From the executive floor behind quiet glass, Vivian watched him cross a camera feed with his head down and his stride sure like a man who never expected applause. She felt the old family voice in her head leverage every asset, weaponize every moment, and let it pass like a train she would not board. 10:30, she murmured, setting an alert on her phone. In the lobby, a little girl would come through tomorrow in a red cap, and a janitor would turn his radio down low so he could read the room and the wind and the 1,000 tiny ways a place can fail you if you don't pay attention. Somewhere between those two quiet facts sat the question that would not leave Vivian alone. Who was Jack Carter before the night he saved her empire, and why did the word hero make him look like he wanted a door more than a microphone? At 10:30 sharp, Vivian cleared her calendar and shut her office door herself. No assistants, no PR, 2 mugs of coffee, a legal pad she might not use. Jack arrived 1 minute later, uniform clean keys quiet at his belt. He chose the chair with a view of the exit, a habit that said more than a resume. Ground rules, Vivian said. No cameras. Nothing leaves this room unless we both agree. You can walk away at any time, Fairjack said. She studied him for a beat. Yesterday you kept people moving when fear tried to cement them in place. I want to understand how you learned that. He let silence pass, once, then twice. Practice, he said, and getting tired of funerals. Vivian didn't flinch. Were they your funerals? He looked at the skyline beyond the glass, then back. A ladder company in Queens, he said. Warehouse fire. Roof went from good to gone in under a minute. We were inside. He stopped there the way you stop at a cliff edge you've measured too many times. I'm sorry, she said, and meant it. The report called it unavoidable, he continued. Good people still died. After a while, sirens were a sound I couldn't carry home to a 9-year-old. So I traded them for squeaky wheels and exit drills. Vivian nodded. You chose a kind of service that lets you sleep. Some nights. He rested his hands on his knees. The knuckles were nicked from work that noticed details. For a second, his thumb traced something in his pocket metal worn the kind of small thing a man holds when words get hard, then he let it go. Your turn, he said. You moved toward the service hall last night. Most people with microphones move toward the nearest camera. Why didn't you? My father raised me in boardrooms, she said. He timed my answers with a watch, corrected my posture with a pen. I learned to make quick decisions because the cost of slowness was public. Her mouth turned wry. And private. Sounds heavy, he said. It was a curriculum. She set her pen down so it couldn't fidget. The lesson I never learned from him was how to be decent under pressure. You did that without a committee. Committees don't fit in stairwells, Jack said. A corner of her mouth lifted. I asked you here for 2 reasons. One is gratitude. The other is practical. I want Stone Tower to be safer on quiet days, not just lucky on bad ones. If you were in my chair, what would you change? He didn't hedge. Stair C, the hinge was grinding. We fixed it this morning, but you need a monthly door audit, not a yearly. The ballroom's north exit is pretty but slow. Swap the decorative handles for panic bars that read in low light. Kill open flame centerpieces. Train staff on a silent queue over the PA when an evacuation should use service corridors. And drill. Real drills, not clipboard drills. What's a clipboard drill? Someone checking boxes while people keep their coffee, he said. A real drill interrupts a latte. She wrote as he spoke, not pretending to know what she didn't. How often quarterly for public-facing floors, monthly for staff, 10 minutes tops. People remember what they repeat. Budget cheaper than settlements, he said. She didn't argue. Would you document all of that? A punch list and a simple playbook for managers I can. I'm also considering a temporary assignment, she added. Facility manager for this building, while we implement changes. Stipend authority over drills and maintenance priority direct line to me. 90 days. He didn't answer quickly. Titles make me visible. Visible makes my kid a search result. Then we keep the title internal and the work external, she said. You get the keys you need and none of the press. You can say no. He weighed it like a man who had learned to respect the weight of yes. I'll write you the plan. We can talk about the rest after you see it work. Deal, she said, and meant it. A soft knock at the door. Vivian didn't answer. The knock came again, more certain. She opened it to find Richard Hale, a tailored suit, a polished smile, the board's favored problem solver. Apologies, he said smoothly. 5 minutes, Vivian. The insurance call moved up, and oh. He clocked. Jack adjusted his tone half a shade. You must be our famous custodian. Richard Hale, Strategic Operations. Maintenance, Jack said. He didn't offer a hand. Richard's smile stayed glossy. Grateful for last night. We're coordinating media. I'd love to align on messaging so your heroics reflect our brand values. Brand values didn't open, Stair C. Jack said. Vivian stepped between them just enough to reset the geometry. Richard, we're in a private meeting. I'll join you in 15. Richard's eyes flickered, then landed back on Jack with a courteous exit nod. He closed the door softly, the way a person does when they want the softness remembered. Vivian returned to her chair. Boardroom weather, she said dryly. I've worked in storms, Jack replied. She slid the legal pad across to him. Use this if you want, or your own notebook. I don't care how pretty the document is. I care if a bartender on 12 knows what to do when something ugly walks in. He wrote the first line without ceremony, quarterly drills, public floors. Below it, who speaks, who moves, which door. Vivian watched the shape of the plan appear in neat block letters. Why do you do this? She asked quietly. Not the job. The way you do it. For Emily, he said. If I have to leave her in a world I can't control, I can still leave her in buildings that try. She felt that sentence find a place inside her she usually kept locked. "I don't have children," she said, "but I know what it costs to feel alone in a crowded room. I'm trying to run this company without becoming the person who taught me how." "That's work," he said. "It is," she agreed. "Some days I'm good at it." He finished a page and turned it. "Your people are better than they think," he said. The guard on 10 Rosa, calm voice, good eyes. The catering kid Devin kept pointing people south didn't freeze. "If you want loyalty, tell them you saw them." "I will," she said, making a separate note. "Name the quiet heroes." Jack stood. "I'll send a draft by end of week." "You just wrote half of it," she said. "Plans read better after a walkthrough," he replied. He reached the door, then paused. "About the media," he said. "They'll come at you sideways. They'll ask for a picture of me with my kid because it tests fences. Don't let them set your fences." "My fences," she said, "are not for rent." "Good," he said, and left. She watched him in the corridor camera as he headed for the stairwell rather than the elevator. He tested the repaired hinge with a shoulder, then moved on, counting something only he could see. Richard reappeared at her threshold as if summoned by a script. 15 minutes are up," he said lightly. "The networks are circling. This is an opportunity if we respect the moment." "It's an opportunity to take care of our staff," Vivian said. "We'll do that first." And the janitor, he asked the word, polished to neutrality. "He's writing a safety plan," she said. Richard's smile didn't reach his eyes. Of course. When he left, Vivian sat alone in the office that had seen 100 deals and very few truths. Across the glass, the city threw its noise against her tower like rain. She looked down at the pages Jack had left Arrow's doors, verbs, and saw something her father's playbooks never taught: how to make a place humane. On her phone, she created a contact: Jack Carter, no media. First name only. Then she added a reminder for tomorrow: a new kind of meeting, walk the drill like real life. Interrupt a latte. Out in the stairwell, a janitor traced a map that turned danger into distance. In an office above him, a CEO weighed the cost of becoming a different kind of leader. Between them, a tower learned a better way to breathe. Stone Tower's first real drill began at 10:04 a.m., exactly when people were most certain nothing bad would interrupt their coffee. A soft chime sounded over the PA, 3 notes, not the blaring siren. Jack had chosen it for one reason: in real trouble. Noise becomes fog, a clear cue cuts through. He spoke evenly into the mic. Staff drill, silent route, manager's guide, guests follow voice instructions, south exits only. On 12, a bartender set down a latte mid-froth. On 10, Officer Rosa lifted her palm and started a quiet flow toward the service corridor. In the ballroom, a server named Devin pointed past the pretty doors to the plain ones that saved time. No one ran. No one posed for a photo. People moved. Vivian stood near the mezzanine rail and watched her building learn a new reflex. Jack didn't strut, didn't shout. He placed himself where pressure built, relieved it, and handed responsibility back to the person owning that square of floor. "Eyes up, keep a person distance between you and the next shoulder," he told a cluster of interns. "Walk like you mean it." He held the stair door while the wave passed, then jogged a floor lower to watch the next one open. He checked the hinge they'd lubricated. It swung like it should. A minute later, the lobby refilled orderly, a little surprised at how simple discipline feels when it works. "Time," Vivian asked, joining him. 9 minutes, 42 seconds, he said, checking his watch. 30 seconds faster next time if we brief the bar first. "Milk slows courage." "Noted," she said, almost smiling. He held out a clipboard with 3 columns. Door, issue, fix. Names peppered the notes: Rosa Devin Tanya at the coat check, who kept her voice low and her gestures big, exactly the right combination. "You remember everyone," Vivian said. "I remember what to praise," he answered. "Praise is cheap and buys the right habits." She glanced at the watch again. "I'd like you to formalize this for all Stone Properties buildings. Same plan adjusted to each layout. Temporary role, 90 days. Authority to drill. Discretion to stay anonymous if you want it." "Anonymous," he said at once. "And I keep my night shift. I walk my daughter to school. We'll work around school drop-off and pick-up," she said. "No press, no plaques, just keys and time." He nodded. "I'll need a person on each floor who can own the plan when I'm not present. People follow people they know. Choose them," she said. At 3 o'clock, a red cap bobbed through the revolving door. Emily trotted beside Jack, backpack thumping against her side, a scuffed baseball peeking from the outer mesh pocket. He'd texted that he needed to sign 2 forms. She knew the drill stay, close eyes open hand signal if lost. Vivian met them by the security desk almost by accident. She'd come down to confirm the counseling room was stocked with tea and tissues. Emily halted, assessing this grown-up with the calm of a kid who'd listened closely during scary things. "Hi, Miss Stone," Emily said, because manners travel faster than fear. "Thank you for the granola bars for the staff. My dad says snacks make courage last longer." Vivian laughed, a small surprised sound. "Your dad is persuasive." "He's bossy about doors," Emily said, not unkindly. Jack signed his last form and glanced down. 2 minutes, Em." "2 minutes," she echoed, then looked back at Vivian. "Were you scared that night?" "Yes," Vivian said. "No polish, no hedge." Emily considered that thumb rubbing the seam of her backpack. "Dad was scared too," she said simply. "He held my hand anyway. That's what heroes do. They keep holding on when the scary part starts." The sentence landed. Vivian felt it find space in her chest she rarely let words touch. "That's a very good definition," she said. "It's our family's," Emily replied, then leaned into Jack's side. "Can I show Ms. Stone the secret door?" "It's not secret," Jack said. "It's just less photogenic." Vivian glanced at her watch, then at the little face under the cap. "I have 3 minutes," she said. "Lead the tour." Emily walked them to the service corridor, tiny sneakers tapping a rhythm against the tile. She pointed to a faded floor diagram. "Dad says maps are kind if you read them before you need them." She lifted the crash bar gently, the way she'd been taught, eyes tracking the swing hand, never near the hinge. Vivian watched Jack watch his daughter. His attention wasn't a net, it was a tether enough slack to let her try enough presence to catch her if she slipped. At the stairwell door, Emily pulled her backpack zipper partway and fished out a small cloth pouch. She pressed it into Jack's palm, then to Vivian's surprise he opened it just enough to show a worn bronze badge firefighter's crest dulled by time and thumb. "Good luck charm?" Vivian asked softly. "It belonged to someone who taught me what to do when rooms go bad," Jack said. He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. Emily pressed the pouch back into his hand with a seriousness that made her look older for an instant. "I borrow it when I'm nervous," she told Vivian. "Dad says I don't need it, but he lets me anyway." "Then it's working," Vivian said. They stood in that small square of hallway in an easy quiet that didn't ask for a show. Out on the sidewalk, a camera flash popped and dissolved. The tower hummed. People went about their lives, and for once the CEO didn't feel like she was pretending to be one. "Thank you for the tour," Vivian said. Anytime Emily replied as if bravery were a library book she could loan out. Jack checked his phone. "Homework window," he said. "We should bounce." Vivian hesitated. "Before you go, 2 items. First, I approved your temporary assignment. Use Darius as your admin. Second, there's a fund in place for anyone still shaky after the incident. You started it. I scaled it. We'll keep it quiet." "Quiet is kind," Jack said. She stepped aside to let them pass, then stopped. "One more thing," she added, looking at Emily. "If you ever feel nervous in this building again, you can ask any guard for the quiet route. They'll know what that means." Emily nodded solemnly. "Quiet route. Good name." Jack lifted his chin. "Thank you." They left by the service door, not to be mysterious, but because ordinary routes are the ones that work on ordinary days. Vivian watched them on the monitor for a second, a man with work on his hands, a girl with a cap and a rule she trusted, then turned back to the lobby where a barista returned to latte art and a guard returned a forgotten scarf to a guest with a shy smile. Upstairs, she sent 3 emails that were either small or enormous depending on how you add them up. 1. Subject, drill debrief. Name the quiet heroes. Rosa, Devon, Tanya. Your choices saved minutes. Minutes save lives. Thank you. 2. Subject, floor captains. I want one on every level by Friday. Choose people who stay calm and speak clearly. 3. Subject, no media. Ask we do not solicit interviews from Jack Carter. We do not show his child. This is not negotiable. Then she opened the safety playbook draft and read it cover to cover. It was short, unpretentious, built of verbs: call, guide, hold, check, praise. It didn't sound like her father's voice. It sounded like a building deciding to be humane. At 6:12 p.m., a text pinged her phone. Jack Barr, brief first, next drill. Milk slows courage. She smiled despite herself and typed back Vivian approved. Also, your daughter's definition of hero is better than any PR line I've read in 10 years. A beat passed. Then Jack, it's hers, not mine. I'm just the hand. Vivian put the phone down and looked out at the city. The tower's glass held the sky like water. She didn't feel taller. She felt steadier. Respect had nothing to do with branded speeches. It began in hallways where a child named the thing adults try to complicate, and in the hands of a man who chose a quiet job and did it with a courage that refused adjectives. The building exhaled. So did she. The boardroom looked like a Promise Riverview white oak, a screen already glowing with charts that made danger look tidy. Vivian took the head seat and let the room settle. Legal, security, finance, PR, each with a stack of paper and a version of control. Richard Hale stood to present tailored calm. We'll be brief, he said. Police have charged the 3 suspects. Insurance sees no structural claim. Reputation risk is the lane to manage. We have 2 levers, narrative and liability. He clicked to a slide. Hero, custodian, saves tower. Heat maps of engagement pulsed in corporate colors. Delia from PR brightened. We can do morning shows next week if slowed down, Vivian said. We don't drag an employee into a spotlight he didn't ask for. Richard nodded as if conceding a point he'd planned to concede. Click. New slide employee, due diligence. Our exposure is not last night, it's tomorrow, he said. We've elevated a night maintenance worker to quasi-security leadership. If his background is incomplete, plaintiff attorneys will feast. A full psych eval, updated background check, and limited access until we're certain those are basic guardrails. Torres' head of security cleared his throat. Carter's file is clean. No incidents. He's proposing drills that make us safer. Pulling access now tells staff we punish initiative. Richard's smile didn't reach his eyes. We protect the enterprise. Mesurinaudit Stone Vivian felt the temperature in the room flick a degree colder. We follow policy, she said. We don't invent a new one to solve a PR worry. Torres formalized the drill plan. Delia build a statement we can stand next year, not just today. Legal draft a staff memo, no one offers interviews without consent. And set the relief fund live by end of day. Richard switched the slide again, immaculate. Understood, he said. His voice didn't argue. His eyes did. The meeting dissolved into tasks. Chairs scraped softly. People filed out with lists. Richard lingered by the window as if watching the river think. He saw another window layered over this one. 15 years earlier, a different office, a colder man. We don't promote clerks to hunters, Henry Stone had said, closing a file Richard had studied for months. You want a real seat? Bring me prey, not paperwork. Richard had brought him a deal later that year, a development package he'd begged, borrowed, and mortgaged his future to assemble. Henry had smiled, taken the contact list, and handed the execution to someone with the right last name. In public, he'd said, good initiative from our junior staff. In private, he'd told Richard, consider it. Tuition. Tuition. The word still tasted like pennies. Now, Henry was gone, but his daughter sat in the chair he'd wanted for himself. Better sharper, and harder to move. Fine, You don't topple a stone, you shift the ground. He pocketed the memory and walked out with his usual weather. Across town, the pickup bell rang. Kids spilled from school with backpacks bumping. Emily scanned faces, spotted Jack, and ran that last stretch the way kids do when they pretend not to sprint. "How was it?" he asked. She shrugged too casually. "Fine. Word I believe less each time I hear it," he said. She pulled at a thread on her sleeve. "Some boys at recess said your job isn't a real hero job. One said heroes wear capes or badges, not key rings." Jack kept his face still. "What did you say?" I said. "Heroes keep holding your hand when the scary part starts." She said it without bravado, like a fact the sky could sign. He nodded once. "That's our family's line." They laughed, she admitted, then added quickly, "Mrs. Lang told them to knock it off." "You okay?" Emily fished in her backpack and held up the scuffed baseball. "I brought this instead of the badge today. The badge means remember. The ball means throw when it matters." He exhaled. "Good trade." They walked in step, her hand in his. The world doesn't shrink when your hand is held. It becomes the right size. Back at Stone Tower, HR forwarded Vivian a media request from a gossip site. Sources say the hero janitor was forced out of prior employment after a psychological incident. No source named, no date. The kind of rumor that spreads because it flatters fear. Where did this come from? She asked, calling Delia and legal into her office. "Could be rivals," Delia said carefully. "Could be internal." Torres appeared in the doorway. "We ran Carter's file against state databases. No reprimands, no sealed records we can see without cause. The only gap is a resignation line, no reason given. He's not a risk. He's a man who knows buildings." Vivian's jaw set. "We don't feed that story. We don't answer a question designed to smear a person. If they print legal response with a privacy notice..." Delia. "If you must give a quote, speak about policy, not a man." Delia nodded, relieved. "Policy, I can do." After they left, Vivian stared at the rumor for a long beat. She could hear her father's voice weaponize or be weaponized. She turned instead to the monitor that showed Stair C. Jack tested the hinge again, checking the swing, then vanished from the frame like a magician who refused applause. Her phone buzzed. Richard, quick note. IT needs temporary camera downtime tonight to run a patch. North Service Corridor 1 to 3 a.m., all in the audit schedule. Vivian approved if Torres signs off and posts a guard. No dark corners. She hit send and dialed security herself. Double coverage while those cameras blink, she told Torres, and log who requested the window. "Will do," he said, no questions. Evenings act like mirrors. Richard met a man in a quiet bar with thick glassware and wood that smelled like expensive secrets. The man wore the uniform of anonymous competence gray suit, quiet watch eyes that never landed where your eyes did, Keller Richard said. "Thanks for coming. Discreet inquiries only," Keller replied. "You said employment background check." "Yes. Jack Carter, former FDNY. I need the edges. Why he left, who he knows, where he breaks. Why Keller asked, not curious so much as assessing risk." "Liability," Richard said smoothly. "My CEO is generous. I'm cautious." Keller nodded. 10 days. Richard slid a retainer across the table. 7. Keller's mouth twitched. 9. Done. They didn't toast. They didn't smile. They left like people who knew the cost of being seen. On the sidewalk, Richard checked one more box on his mental list. Northbridge Capital Stone's hungriest competitor had already sniffed around their waterfront project. He texted a contact there. "If executive leadership stumbles in the next quarter, can you move?" The reply came in seconds. "We can always move." Good, Richard thought. Pressure is nothing without a valve. At home, Jack spread math worksheets on the table while pasta boiled. Emily worked problems out loud the way he'd taught her, show your thinking, even if your hand shakes. "Dad," she said, pencil swinging. If someone says a mean thing about you in a video and it gets lots of hearts, do the hearts make it true?" "No," he said. "They make it loud. How do you make true things loud?" You don't, he said. You make them steady. She considered that. Steady is slower. Slower wins longer, he said, and twirled noodles. Her smile returned. Mrs. Lang said that in kickball. She said home runs are fun, but singles win games. Mrs. Lang is wise, he said. We like her. They ate. They read. He checked a latch on their little fire escape window twice, then once more for luck that wasn't luck, just habit. His phone buzzed, Darius Heads Up IT Patch 13 a.m. North Corridor. Torres posted extra guard. We still good for your check, Jack. I'll walk the floors at 1:15. If a door sticks, I want to hear it at night, not at noon. He tucked Emily in with the old ritual 2 squeezes. For I love you one, for sleep well. On her nightstand, the baseball sat where the badge sometimes did. Past and future trading shifts. Morning brought another board huddle. Richard arrived early and examined the seating chart like a chessboard. Vivian entered last unreadable. She led with the relief fund update names kept private help already accepted. Then she turned to operations. Drill 2 is next Wednesday, she said. We brief the bar first. Milk slows courage, per our new playbook. A few smiles flickered. Richards didn't. About the playbook, he said. Shifting papers he didn't need to shift. We still have an unvetted person influencing safety protocol. If something goes wrong, then we fix it, Vivian said. We don't pre-punish the person who found us a better way. Reputation isn't sentimental, he said softly. Henry understood that. The name landed like a dropped coin. Vivian met his gaze. We are not Henry, she said. We're going to be better. Richard's eyes cooled a degree, then warmed a degree too much. Of course, he said. Always better. When the room emptied, he stood again by the glass. In his pocket, a folded scrap weighted Henry's old note in a handwriting that pushed too hard. Some people belong on the floor, not at the table. Richard unfurled it and looked at the line until the paper knew what he meant. Then he texted Keller a single phrase, "Move faster." He slipped the note away, adjusted his cuff, and practiced the smile that said helpful while he lit a fuse no one else could see. The tower breathed on, unaware that someone had cracked a window on purpose. The first crack was small enough to ignore. At 11:22 a.m., a rain squall rattled the tower's glass. Lights dipped, then steadied. 2 elevators paused between floors for 8 seconds, just long enough to make strangers become neighbors. Torres logged it as a weather blip. IT shrugged toward the grid. People went back to coffee. Jack didn't shrug. He checked the electrical closet on 12 and found the breaker panel screws polished clean as if a careful hand had turned them recently. The maintenance log showed no work order. His paper clipboard pendants and coffee ring said the last inspection was a week ago. He snapped a photo of the panel, time-stamped it, and sent it to Torres. Jack panel looks touched. No work order. Who had the key? Torres only, building ops, and IT. I'll pull badge swipes. On the mezzanine, Vivian stepped through a check-in with Delia and legal about the relief fund. The numbers were modest, the emails grateful. It was the kind of line item that didn't win awards and changed days anyway. Press is quiet for now, Delia said, but that gossip site is still sniffing. Let them sniff air, Vivian said, and headed for her next call. Jack caught her by the service corridor. Got a minute. Walk, she said. He did. Electrical closet's been opened outside a work order. Not by one of ours. It says weather, she replied. It didn't touch those screws. Could it be nothing? It could be prep, he said. People test systems before they break them. They reached the stairwell. He pressed the bar and let the door swing. Chain of custody matters. If we keep our doors honest, rumors don't get to write our story. Vivian heard 2 arguments braided together, the technical and the morale. Torres is pulling badge data, she said. We'll treat it as real until it proves false. Good, he said. The second crack came dressed as convenience. An email went to facilities at 2:03 p.m. We found duplicates of several master keys during a routine inventory. Please reconcile. The attachment was a spreadsheet with inventory numbers and pictures of brass blanks. It looked official. It also reported a discrepancy in Jack's ring. Darius forwarded it with 3 question marks. Jack walked down to the cage and unlocked the steel drawers himself. Keys sat in their labeled slots. His count matched the paper ledger he'd kept since his first week. The photos in the email were real keys photographed on a mat that didn't belong to their cage. Who sent the message, Jack asked. Facilities inbox, Darius said. Spoofed, maybe. Jack bagged the email printout in a clear sleeve like evidence and wrote the time with a Sharpie. He wasn't a cop. He just respected the day when a lawyer might ask for the first time something went wrong. He texted Vivian a 2-line summary and went back to doors. When bad faith visits a building, it invites itself to everything. By late afternoon, the tower felt off. Nothing big. The wrong screensaver on a lobby monitor. A vendor badge printed with yesterday's date. A fire extinguisher on 8 hung 1 hook off level. Small wrongs breed big wrongs. Vivian called an operations huddle. Torres presented the facts without theater. We've got a questionable panel, a spoofed email, and some sloppy vendor badges. Pattern says someone's probing. I've doubled the evening guard rotation and locked down master keys. We'll audit cameras again. Richard sat across from him, hands folded like a priest of data. We can't ignore the optics, he said smoothly. The one person whose access has grown since the incident is Mr. Carter. If anomalies cluster near his areas, Electrical Keys Service Corridor's prudence says we restrict his access until our audit completes. Vivian felt her jaw tighten. Jack reported the anomalies, she said. We don't punish the person who turns on the light. Richard smiled with appropriate humility. Not punishment. Process. We preserve chain of custody by removing any variables we can control. What we can control, Jack said from the doorway, is the work. If you restrict access, drills stop. Hinges squeak again. People forget the quiet route. Richard turned. We're in a closed. I asked him to join. Vivian said. She kept her gaze on Jack. What's your read? Someone wants us to chase our tails, he said. They're pushing buttons that look like neglect and smell like scandal. Do the audit, yes, but don't hand them the headline they're baiting Stone reverses course bench's hero admits error. Delia winced. That line writes itself. Richard spread his hands. Or we can wait, hope nothing burns, and let plaintiffs' attorneys write their own lines later. Enough, Vivian said, and the word landed. We'll audit without performative caution. Jack keeps access, Torres leads, IT provides logs, legal tracks chain of custody. Delia prepare a statement we can use if press sniffs anomalies. We are improving systems proactively. Richard looked almost relieved to be overruled. It was a practiced look. That night, Jack walked the floors at 1:15 a.m. The tower had its own heartbeat elevator whirs, HVAC breaths, the quiet ping of a motion sensor remembering people exist. On the North Service corridor, the camera window for the IT patch was still open. A guard stood where Torres had posted him alert coffee cooling on a stool. Any visitors? Jack asked. Just you, the guard said, and a guy from IT at 12:40. Badge read legit. Describe him. 40. Clean haircut. No logo on the laptop bag. Names. The guard hesitated. Didn't catch it. Jack nodded, kept walking. At the stairwell landing, he found a folded piece of clear plastic near the latch, a sliver of cut bottle the kind used as a shim by people who didn't like keys. He bagged it, labeled it, and took another photo with his phone. Jack, Torres found a latch shim on N12. Someone's fishing. Check IT badge at 12:40 against HR photos. If it's a temp, I want the agency. Torres copy, and thanks. Back home, he slept in slices. At 7:15, he walked Emily to school under a sky the color of paper. At the corner, a black SUV idled too long. The driver stared straight ahead, not at his phone, which is its own kind of stare. Jack memorized the plate without moving his head and put his hand on Emily's shoulder as they crossed. At the school gate, Mrs. Lang waved them in. Mr. Carter, quick heads up. Yesterday, a man at the fence asked 2 kids what time dismissal was. Our aide reported it, but Ping me if you see anything. Description. Jack asked calm as he could make it. Mid-40s, blue windbreaker, no logo. He asked like he belonged here. I'll file with the school safety officer, he said, and I'll walk the block once before I head in. He knelt to Emily's height. Same plan, he said, voice steady. If something feels off, you ask an adult and go quiet route to the office. She straightened her cap. Thumbs up, only when I'm safe. Exactly. He watched her disappear through the door, then called the precinct's school safety desk and filed a neat, boring report. Boring reports save lives. Vivian spent the morning in contract reviews, but the tower managed to push itself into the margins. Torres forwarded camera stills from the north corridor, a man with an IT badge face partly blocked by a laptop screen. Legal emailed a chain of custody template with real teeth. Delia wrote a draft statement that used the phrase diligence over drama, and meant it. Richard stopped by her office with 2 coffees and the face he wore when he wanted to be the good cop. You're right to keep the playbook going, he said, setting a cup down. I still advise caution. A temporary pullback on Mr. Carter's access, purely procedural, would telegraph that we're serious without implying guilt. Caution that costs us drills is performance, she said. We'll be serious the way hinges are serious. His eyes cooled a breath. As you wish. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jack. Jack found Shim on N12. Sending photo. Filing with Torres. Black SUV by school lingered too long. I filed with SSO. Might be nothing. Might be prep. She looked up. Torres is handling anomalies. Jack is doing his job. Please stop circling him like a liability case. Richard's smile returned thinner. Always on the same side, Vivian. She didn't answer. Some vows are better unsaid. By afternoon, the third crack showed itself where it always does in the numbers. Its log for the 1240 badge swipe bore a pattern Jack had learned to respect. The checksum on the record didn't match the expected output. The data had been altered after the fact. Torres brought the printout to Vivian. Somebody edited the record, he said. Could be a sloppy patch. Could be a deliberate wipe. Who can alter logs IT with admin rights, he said. Or someone with their password. Richard joined them mid-brief as if the meeting had been his to begin with. We need a pause, he said. This is exactly the moment you hit timeout, reset access, and conduct a hard audit. No, Vivian said, and the word was colder than the glass. We push through. We do the work. We fix what's weak, and we don't hand whoever's poking us the story they're trying to write. Richard's gaze slid to the city, then back. Board call at 5, he said lightly. Be ready to justify that sentence. I am, she said. He left, already dialing. He sounded helpful in the hall. Vivian stood with Torres over the paper that proved a log had lied. She didn't say Henry's name even in her head. She said Jack's. Double the school patrols near Emily's route, she told Torres. Quietly. Use off-duty cops if you have to. I'll cover the invoices. Yes, ma'am. And tell Darius next drill we brief the bar first. Milk slows courage. He smiled despite the day. Yes, it does. When she was alone, she opened the safety playbook again and traced the verbs with her finger. Call, guide, hold, check, praise. Then she added a new one in the margin with a pen that pressed too hard. Protect. Outside, rain stitched the afternoon together. Inside the tower, knew it was being watched. Cracks had a way of announcing the test to come. Jack texted one last note before shift. I'll walk the block at dismissal. See you on 12 after. Vivian typed back. I'll be there. We widen the hallway no matter who narrows it. Dismissal at PS 214 followed the same choreography every weekday. Doors opened, teachers fanned out parents, formed a ragged crescent at the gate. Jack stood where Emily could spot him first, half a step from the hydrant back to the fence eyes on the crosswalk and the curb lane both. The black SUV from yesterday idled half a block down again. Same angle. Same driver's chin pointed straight ahead, not at a phone, not at a mirror. Jack lifted his sleeve like he was checking the time and snapped a photo. Plate halfway obscured by a bike rack. He tucked the image away. 3:05. The first graders burst out like popcorn. 3:07. Fourth graders peeled off in twos. 3:08. Emily's red cap should have bobbed through the crowd by now. Mrs. Lang stepped out scanning faces. "She didn't come through my line," she said when she saw Jack. Inside, he asked, "Should be." They moved fast without running. The assistant at the desk checked the nurse, the library, the restroom. No Emily. The hall camera showed her at her classroom door with two friends, then a gap where a posted aide had stepped away to break up a disagreement on the stairs. The street camera at the corner caught a frame and half a blue windbreaker, a hand on a small shoulder, a van door sliding shut. Then taillights. Jack didn't shout. He didn't fold. He handed his phone to the school safety officer. "Plate partial," he said. "Driver loiters. Likely the same vehicle. Call it in." Amber criteria, she was taken, not wandered. "We're not waiting." He dialed 911 anyway and gave the same facts, carefully stacking them in the order that moves the fastest. 9 years old, red cap, green backpack, abducted at dismissal. White van, no plate on the front, black SUV as possible scout. He added the detail about the blue windbreaker because ordinary is the best disguise in daylight. Mrs. Lang gripped the edge of the desk so hard her knuckles blanched. "We'll lock down," she said. "Phones to parents now." "Thank you," Jack said, and felt how small the words were against a rising ocean. His phone buzzed before the officer could finish the first call. Unknown number, a text. "No police, 200K cash, 6 p.m., North Dock, 43, come alone. If you bring security, she disappears." A second message followed with a photo. Emily, eyes wide but unbroken. A woman's hand on her shoulder. The frame cut just above the wrist, no rings, no tattoo. Emily's cap was gone. The scuffed baseball still bulged the side pocket of her backpack. Mrs. Lang saw the photo and pressed her lips together so she wouldn't break the quiet needed to hear. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "Don't be," Jack said softly. "You teach kids to line up. You don't train for wolves." He forwarded the text to the detective the 911 operator had patched him to, then one more to Torres with a single line. "They're using the docks." After that, he called Vivian. She answered on the second ring. "Jack, they took Emily," he said. "No filler, no preface. Text came in. North Dock 43, 6 o'clock, 200,000, no police." There was a brief, disciplined inhale. "I'm already moving," Vivian said. "I'll meet you at the school in 10. She arrived in 8. No camera, no car with a logo, no performance. A dark coat, flat shoes, eyes reset to a different horizon. She listened while the school officer briefed her on the lockdown and the Amber process. Then she stepped aside with Jack in a small room where lost mittens and spare backpacks hung on hooks. "We pay," Delia said over speaker from the office when Vivian looped her in. "We keep this quiet. We do not escalate." "We know," Jack said the word, even not loud. "Money doesn't buy my daughter. Money buys wolves a new appetite." Delia swallowed. "I didn't mean I did." Richard's voice cut in from the conference call Vivian had forgotten she'd left open. "Proof of life is one thing. A public circus is another. We can manage this discreetly. Private security. Clean drop. The board will approve the funds in 30 minutes if Miss Stone authorizes." Vivian muted the line and met Jack's eyes. "Law enforcement is already on this," she said. "I won't ask you to ignore that text. I also won't hand your daughter's life to a negotiation designed to keep us compliant." "My rules are simple," Jack said. "We loop the detectives. We prepare for the dock, but we assume it's a misdirect. We set eyes on every route in and out. And we don't advertise anything. The person who wrote that text wants control. We deny it without making noise." "Done," she said. "Torres is staging plainclothes near the piers now. I'll wire the ransom if the detectives recommend it, but we do not make that drop blind." His phone buzzed again. Another text. "Put the CEO on." A second later, a call. Vivian took it and switched to speaker. A man's voice flattened by a cheap scrambler. "Mr. Stone, you own the building where the janitor works. You're going to learn that assets are liabilities. Vivian's tone went courtroom steady. "I'm listening. No police, no security," the voice said. "You bring him, alone, cash in a duffel. North Dock 43 at 6. If I see anyone who smells like a badge, the kid goes in the water." Emily's voice cut in small and clear behind the static. "Miss Daney." "Stone, I'm okay." Vivian's throat tightened. "Emily, sweetheart, I'm scared," she said, voice wobbling once, then finding the rail. "But I'm holding my dad's hand anyway. In my head. He taught me that." The line went dead. Vivian closed her eyes a beat. When she opened them, they were cold and lit. "We do both," she said. "We stand up law enforcement and we build a private plan that doesn't step on theirs." "Thank you," Jack said. 2 words with 100 pounds behind them. Detective Alvarez arrived with 2 plainclothes officers and a binder she'd clearly opened 100 times. She laid out the procedure in a voice meant to get people through fire. "We treat the dock as a decoy," she said, "but we prepare for contact. We'll have eyes in the stacks. We'll fit you with a wire. We'll mark the cash. We do not chase if they drive. We follow. We find the nest." Jack nodded. "I'll need the duffel to look right. No new off-the-shelf bag. Something scuffed. And we feed them a detail that lets me hear where they've been." "Meaning?" the detective asked. "And ask for a phone call before the handoff," he said. 30 seconds with Emily. No excuses. While she talks, I'll listen. For what Vivian asked. Background, he said. What the room breathes. Water gulls, a forklift beep, a diesel idle. The river sounds different at every pier. If they moved her after the call, we'll know. Alvarez looked at him with the assessment of someone who spots competence outside the badge. "You've done this kind of listening." "I've done triage and noise," he said. Vivian called Torres. "Plainclothes at every North Dock. A decoy duffel ready in an hour. Tell legal to keep our name out of any Amber Alert statements. The story is the child, not the company." Richard pinged her again. "Board is concerned. If this leaks and we didn't pay immediately liability," she typed back one sentence. "If this leaks, your concern will be that you texted me in the middle of a kidnapping to talk liability." Silence. Jack and Alvarez reviewed routes to Dock 43. Vivian absorbed the map until it lived under her skin-feeder road's blind corners angles of camera coverage. She had lived her life in rooms where the walls were made of money. These walls were made of time. Her job was to buy as much as she could without letting the predators set the price. At 5:30, the duffel sat under Jack's desk at Stone Tower. Alvarez clipped a wire under his shirt and taped a second mic for redundancy. Torres handed over an earpiece that carried only 2 voices, the detective and Vivian. "You don't need me on the line," she said, not wanting to be brave at the wrong moment. "I do," Jack said simply. "You hear things boards don't." She nodded once. They left the tower by the freight ramp not because it was secret, but because it was honest. Dusk turned the river into a bruise. Somewhere out there, a child with a red cap in a laundry bin or under a tarp rehearsed the sentence that kept her brave. On the drive, Vivian watched the city recede and felt a truth settle. This had never been about money. This was about pressure. Someone wanted Jack off the board, off the building, off her orbit. Someone had opened panels and spoofed keys and now had taken a little girl to bend a leverage point. Whoever did this, she said into the tiny mic that carried to both men, is going to learn we don't break that way. Alvarez's voice came back dry and steady. "Let's find the where before we solve the who." They pulled into a shadow a block from the docks. Forklifts mewed in reverse somewhere out of sight. A ship's horn blew long and low, a note that told you the water was close enough to swallow your voice. Jack tightened the strap of the duffel and rolled his shoulders like a man testing a hinge. Alvarez handed him a burner. "Call 5 minutes before 6, she said. "Demand to hear Emily. Keep him talking. We'll log the sound map." Jack took the phone, then reached into his pocket and touched the worn cloth pouch once hard. He looked at Vivian. "We widen the hallway," she said. He nodded and stepped into the half-light. The river breathed back at him. Somewhere small hands trusted a sentence more than a rope. He dialed. Jack pressed call 5 minutes before 6. The burner phone ticked in his hand like a small clock. A click, then Emily, thin, steady. "Dad, I'm okay." "Good girl," Jack said, voice low. "I'm right behind you." A man cut in. "Dock 43, 6 o'clock. No police. You alone. Put her back on while I walk," Jack said, stalling by design. Emily again. "I can hear birds." Jack listened past her words. Gulls closer than a tourist pier. A forklift beeping in reverse shorter interval than the city uses at the commercial terminals. Under it, a diesel generator with a wobble in the idle, 3 beats, a cough, 3 beats. He pictured the north waterfront like a map pinned to his ribs. Dock 43 didn't run forklifts on Saturday. Dock 37 did. Dock 37 also had a rented warehouse with a portable generator that coughed. 30 more seconds, Jack said, turning, letting the wind mark his face. A bell clanged twice on the river, low and metal. Not the ferry, the scrap barge. "Time's up," the man said, and the line died. Alvarez's voice came through Jack's wire. "You got it. Dock 37, he said. Scrap bell. Short interval forklift. Bad generator," Copy Alvarez said. "We pivot. Plane close to 37. 2 units hold 43 as decoy. Do not engage without my call." Vivian's voice was the third line in his ear, steady as he needed it. "We're 3 blocks out. Torres has eyes moving." They turned down a service road gone to weeds. The river breathed cold. Ahead, Dock 37's warehouse sat in the last of the light with one bay door cracked and a dim, orange rectangle inside like a warning someone forgot to tape off. Alvarez raised a hand. Positions, she told her team then to Jack. "You don't go unless I go." "If the room tells me I have seconds," he said. "Not minutes, seconds." They crept to the shadow of a stacked container. Through the crack, Jack saw a woman in a blue windbreaker at a folding table, face obscured by a brimmed cap. The man from the call paced beyond her with a phone and a pistol he handled like a prop until it wasn't. In the near corner, an office door with wired glass. Behind it, a small figure in a green backpack on a plastic chair. Emily, hands in her lap. Shoulders squared the way she'd seen her father do when he had to pretend the world was bigger than fear. Jack counted the lanes. The roll-up door would feed air to any flame. The side door to the office would hold a pocket of air if it stayed closed. On the concrete near a column, he saw a dark splash and a wick of rags shoved into a coffee can. Accelerant, a cleanup fire staged to erase a bad decision. Alvarez whispered, "Call it." 2 snatchers, one inside one by the office, he said. A third watching the road, probably the SUV from the school. Emily in the office. Accelerant set. The heat signature is wrong for ambient. They're lighting this before they leave. And I keep oxygen honest, he said. I go in the side office door, control flow, get Emily out. If fire pops, we go low and fast. She hesitated, half a breath. FDNY is rolling. 2 minutes tops. I don't have 2 if they touch that wick, Jack said. Vivian put a hand on his forearm, gentle and firm. You don't die in there, she said. I don't, he answered. He reached into his pocket, found the small cloth pouch, and closed his fist around it like a prayer he didn't say. Alvarez signaled. 2 officers flanked the roll-up, staying dark. Vivian slid her phone into a chest rig lens down not to broadcast, but to timestamp. She tapped a secure upload that mirrored video to 3 lawyers and 2 editors. A dead man's switch dressed as a cloud. Ready, Alvarez breathed. Jack moved. He hugged the warehouse wall kept beneath the window line, found the office door, and laid his palm flat to the metal. Warm, not hot. He crouched, put his cheek near the threshold. Smoke curled in a lazy line. No push, no pull. The room would hold if he let it. He eased the knob to the first click opened 4 inches and slid in sideways, staying low. The air tasted like dust and gasoline promises. Hey, Peanut, he whispered. Emily didn't jump. She blinked twice to reset tears and nodded as if they had practiced this exact moment. She had their family's lighthouse signal ready without lifting a hand. He crossed the space in 2 quiet moves, cut the zip tie at her wrist with the multi-tool he'd carried since ladders, and knelt so they were eye to eye. He put the cloth pouch in her palm. Borrow this, he said. You don't need it, but it likes you." She nodded, lips pressed thin so they wouldn't shake. "We do the plan. We do the plan," he said. "Head down. Hand on me, count your breaths." A shout from the bay snapped the thin thread of stillness. The man with the pistol barked, "Where is he?" The woman in the windbreaker kicked the coffee can with her toe. The rag's tip flared. Flame licked the dark like a match tasting paper. Alvarez moved the second the wick bloomed. Officers hit the roll-up from both sides with a shove that made metal scream. "Police," she yelled, voice a clean blade. "Hands where we can see them." The man fired once wild, then twice toward the shadow that had already moved. The woman did the job she'd been hired to do. She ran. She clipped the can as she bolted. The rag toppled. Gasoline found its story. The fire took the corner like it had been waiting. Orange climbed, cardboard breathed, and learned a new word. The warehouse didn't explode. It did something worse. It made hungry decisions. "Go," Jack said. He kept the office door half closed with his boot to slow the draw. He soaked his handkerchief from a water bottle and pressed it to Emily's mouth and nose. "Stay low. Crawl, not run. If I say, stop, you stop. If I say, out you go, even if I'm not in front of you." The glass in the wired window crazed into white lines. Heat ticked in the ceiling tiles. Jack flattened open the door a wedge and scanned the floor flame lines, not yet the rolling fire that eats ceilings. He popped a little ABC extinguisher off the wall, tiny but better than nothing, and painted the base of flame near their threshold in a slow sweep. It knocked the fire back a foot, bought them 2 breaths. "Now," he said, and they moved. He kept Emily on his hip with one hand and the extinguisher in the other, each yard a math problem solved for flow and time. An aisle of shelving groaned. A cardboard tower slumped. Smoke lowered like a ceiling remembering gravity. They hit the office door. Behind them, something fell with a stainless crash. He didn't look back. He did the only thing that makes fire go small. He closed the door behind them to starve it. At the bay, Alvarez's team had the gunman face down, hands laced. The woman in the windbreaker was nowhere but a plainclothes officer, had eyes on a blue sleeve vanishing between stacks. "South flank," someone shouted. Sirens wound up at the road, growing teeth. "Out," Jack told Emily. He pointed to the slice of daylight beyond the roll-up. "Hands on the wall, keep moving." She glanced over her shoulder. Miss Stone Vivian stood at the edge of the bay phone to her chest, eyes on them, not the camera. "I'm here," she said. "Go with the officer. I'm right behind Jack." Emily did what brave looks like when you're 9. She obeyed. She slid along the wall and into the clear air where a paramedic crouched to her height with a blanket and a voice that didn't hurry her. Jack turned back. "Don't," Vivian said. "There's one more," he replied. A metal shelf had twisted across a catwalk ladder on the far side. Beyond it, a figure had retreated, blue windbreaker-brimmed cap climbing toward a skylight that wouldn't open. Heat punched the room in waves. A small canister went off like angry punctuation. Jack calculated spread and fuel and time and wrote a number on the back of his skull, 30 seconds for a clean in and out before the room changed species. 10 seconds only, he told Vivian. "If I'm not out, you don't come in." She nodded, once jaw locked. 10. He vaulted the fallen shelf, grabbed the ladder, and climbed into an air that clawed. The woman turned, startled to see a man instead of flame. She swung a length of pipe at his head. He ducked, caught her wrist, and guided force into the rail, not her face. Her cap fell back. For a flash, he saw eyes that knew the price of being hired for the wrong job. He twisted the pipe free and let it clatter. Heat pried at their backs. "Down," he said, voice the ice at the middle of fire. "Now!" She went, knees buckling a choice made by a body that wanted to live. Jack dropped behind her, gathered the last of his breath, and moved the distance that separates decisions from regret. At the floor, flames painted the far wall. Jack felt the room change air, pulling hard tongue of fire tasting up into the void. He didn't run for the big opening. He went for the small one, the service door he'd come through, because big holes feed animals. He shoved the woman through into cleaner air and turned. A beam above hissed, warped, and came down where Vivian had stood a half-second earlier. She darted left, tripped on a coil of hose braced on one hand. Her phone skittered lens up, catching a video of a thing that looked like weather and wasn't. "Jack," she shouted. He didn't think. He moved the way he'd failed to move once in a warehouse that still visited his sleep. He slid under the edge of the beam, caught Vivian by the forearm, and rolled them both into the strip of shadow where the air wasn't trying to kill them yet. "Out," he said again, not a plea, a command. They ran, crouched. The river air hit them like a gate opening. Behind a fire truck's pump engaged a percussive heartbeat that means other people have arrived to finish what you began. Emily broke the medic's grip and launched at Jack with a sound he'd recognize at 1,000 yards, fear loosening its hold. He caught her, lifted her, then put her down again because he needed to feel her weight and then feel her standing. "You did the plan," he said. "I counted," she told him, breath hitching. "And I held your hand in my head." He looked at Vivian. Her hair smelled like smoke and ocean and metal. She held up the phone rig. "Everything is time-stamped," she said, voice ragged and sure. Video of the accelerant. License plates. A shell company label on a crate near the office, Revell Storage, LLC. Alvarez's brows lifted. "That's a lead." "It's a thread," Vivian said. "We pull it." Paramedics checked pupils and pulses. FDNY took the building away from the fire and gave it back to air. Alvarez's team loaded the gunman into a car and put out a bolo on a woman in a blue windbreaker who would need a new name before morning. Jack knelt to Emily's level, pressed his fingers against the cloth pouch in her fist. "You keep that tonight," he said. "I'll borrow it back tomorrow." She nodded. "Throw when it matters," she whispered. He smiled, a tired, real thing. "Exactly." Vivian glanced at the warehouse, then back at them. "This doesn't end at the dock," she said. No, Jack agreed. He looked past her to the city that had tried to swallow his life once and failed. It starts here. Behind them, the tower on the skyline caught the last light. It didn't look taller. It looked like a place that had learned how to breathe. By dawn, the warehouse was a black rib cage against the river. Detective Alvarez set a binder on Vivian's conference table and opened to the first page like a surgeon exposing a clean incision. Revell Storage LLC, she said. Registered to a mailbox in Delaware. The rent on Dock 37 was paid by Bracken Logistics, another shell. Money moved from a discretionary account at Hale Strategic Partners Richard's side vehicle to Bracken 2 weeks ago. We have the wire. Vivian didn't look at Jack. She looked at the names. They arranged themselves into a pattern that felt inevitable. The camera edit an IT contractor on Stone's vendor list, Alvarez said. Hired temporarily by operations with a single signature. That signature was Richard's. The contractor admits he altered log files at 12:55 a.m. after a patch. He thought he was smoothing an audit. He's cooperating. Jack turned a page. Plate photos. The black SUV from the school gate, rented by a Crown Ridge consulting card. Crown Ridge paid by Hale Strategic, routed through a marketing slush. Clean paperwork, dirty intent. And the woman in the blue windbreaker, Vivian asked. Name is Dana Voigt. She took cash from a private investigator named Keller 3 days ago. We picked Keller up at 3 a.m. He rolled fast, said he was paid to apply pressure, create personnel doubt about your custodian, accelerate a sale, and, quote, remove distractions. He says he never signed up for kidnapping. That's the sentence they all use. Jack watched the line items, not the drama. Voigt will have her, Alvarez said. Boat camera caught her sleeve 2 piers over. She'll run out of names. Vivian closed the binder. I want the board to hear this from you first, she said. Then from compliance. Then from me. She texted Delia Emergency Board at 10. No leaks, no euphemisms. At 9:58, the boardroom filled with suits and the smell of expensive paper. Some faces looked worried about a child. Most looked worried about risk. Richard took a seat 2 chairs down from Vivian, composed in a gray that matched weather. Alvarez went first. 10 minutes. Dates, wire paths, phone logs, vendor entries, rental agreements. No adjectives. Then the chief compliance officer stacked an internal audit on top the unauthorized camera window Richard had scheduled the ghost work order in the electrical closet pipeline, the spoofed email about key discrepancies that originated from an IP address inside operations. "I want to be very clear," the officer said. "These are not random mistakes. They form a sequence." Richard folded his hands. "Detective," he said, voice almost kind, "you've pulled a lot of threads through my name. That's easy to do when I sign off on half the company's vendor approvals, cherry-pick the right invoices, and suddenly I funded a warehouse." Alvarez didn't blink. "We didn't cherry-pick. We traced." He turned to Vivian, who hadn't moved since page 3. "Vivian, whatever this is, we should treat it as what defense counsel would call coincidental adjacency. We do not assume intent, and we do not launder a police briefing into board minutes." "You hired Keller," she said. "I hired due diligence," he countered, "because you elevated a night custodian into a safety role without process, because you were distracted by a narrative, because Henry would have." "We are not Henry," Vivian said. He smiled the practiced conciliatory smile. "We can agree on that." Torres entered with a slim folder and placed it at Vivian's elbow. She slid out a text from Richard to Keller 9 days earlier. "Move faster." Richard didn't flinch. "Context," he said. "This could refer to any number of legitimate tasks. Then there's this compliance added," softly pushing another page in email from Richard to IT subject line, patch window, requesting camera downtime in the exact corridor where the latch shim was later found. And this Alvarez said her tone still clinical bank records showing $85,000 leaving Hale Strategic and arriving in Bracken Logistics with memo contingency. The air thinned. Finance shifted in their chairs the way bodies do when they've heard enough to feel a verdict forming. Richard's veneer cracked a hair. "Let's say," he said, easing back as if magnanimous that an over-eager contractor crossed a line. "Let's say someone I retained made a call I didn't authorize. That's negligence, not conspiracy." Vivian kept her voice low. "They took a child." He held her gaze and made his worst mistake. He reached for the old shield. "Vivian, you don't understand what we swim in. We deal with sharks. Henry trained us. He taught us the cost of looking weak. It was the last time he would use her father like a talisman. Henry taught you to confuse cruelty with strength," she said. "It worked on you. It never worked on me." Silence snapped. Richard stood smoothing a cuff that didn't need smoothing. "If this is where we're going, I'll call counsel. We will not convict a partner on a detective's binder and a collection of suggestive wires. We will not hand our rivals a headline. We will not." The door opened. Detective Alvarez stepped aside as 2 plainclothes officers entered. "Mr. Hale," she said, the line read 100 times. "You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit kidnapping, tampering with evidence, and obstruction. You have the right to remain silent." A murmur rose. Delia actually gasped, then clamped a hand over her mouth as if the sound might count as a leak. Richard laughed once, not mirth. Disbelief. "On what grounds Keller's statement bank records your texts and the fact your hired contractor altered our camera logs the night before an abduction," Alvarez said. "Plus, the woman you hired is in custody. She rolled too." He looked at Vivian as the cuffs clicked a small, clean sound. Something old and rotten surfaced. "Your father humiliated me," he said, not bothering to lower his voice now. "He stole a deal I built and called it tuition. I gave him my 20s. He gave me a seat where I could watch every meal I killed served to someone with the right last name. So, yes, I vowed I'd put Stone on the floor one day. He's dead. You were available. There it was. The true motive, loud as a siren. You put a child in the crosshairs to settle a debt with a ghost," Vivian said. "You don't get to call that business." He looked around the table for someone to save him. No one stood. "You all enjoyed the returns," he said softly. "Don't pretend you didn't love the bloodless parts. No return is worth this," finance said, and meant it in a way accountants rarely get to mean things. Council recovered first. The board needs to vote to suspend Mr. Hale immediately and initiate removal for cause, she said. We also need resolution severing Hale Strategic from all vendor relationships, notifying insurers and disclosing to regulators. Now, seconded Torres said, surprising himself. All in favor, Vivian asked. Hands went up, not timidly. All but one. Richards. Motion carries, she said. Her voice didn't shake. Alvarez led Richard out. He kept his spine straight because pride survives past usefulness. When the door clicked shut, no one exhaled for a full 3 seconds. Delia spoke a first voice thin. This will be public by noon. Then we'll say what's true, Vivian said. A child was taken. She's safe. We cooperated fully. We discovered internal misconduct and acted. Our safety plan continues louder and calmer than before. No adjectives. No spin. Diligence over drama. Heads nodded around the table. The room learned a new way to be brave. Vivian dismissed them with tasks and stayed seated when the last folder closed. Jack remained in the doorway. He hadn't moved during the arrest. He'd stood like a hinge, quiet necessary. You okay? He asked. I will be, she said. He shrugged. Cracks explained are better than cracks that wander. She almost smiled. You were right about the pattern. Someone tested systems before they broke them. You were right about fences, he said. You held. Her phone buzzed. A text from Alvarez Dana Voigt confirms the instruction came with a photo of Emily's route. Keller says the photo came from an internal presentation deck operations culture study. Attached a screen grab with a red cap circled in a crowd outside PS 214. Vivian felt heat that had nothing to do with fire. He used our own paper to hunt a kid, she said quietly. Predators look for maps we leave on tables, Jack said. We stop leaving them. She stood. We start with an apology to the school. Then new rules, no slides with children's faces ever. And we fund crossing guards for that corner for a year. Quietly. Quiet is kind, he said. Delia reappeared with a draft statement. Vivian crossed out a paragraph, rewrote it in 9 words. We tell the truth. We repair what we failed to see. She handed it back. Run it. Outside, cameras were already angling for grief. Vivian walked to the podium anyway because absence can be a story too. She spoke for 3 minutes. No names beyond what the police had released. No theater. She thanked detective staff and a community that ran toward when fear set away. She answered 2 questions and declined the ones that wanted blood. Jack watched from inside near security where the monitors showed Stair C and the lobby doors and a long shot of a river that would always remind him of a room that tried to change species and a little girl who counted her breaths. When Vivian returned, he said only, Drill Wednesday. Bar brief first. Milk slows courage, she answered, and finally smiled. She looked down at his hand. The cloth pouch was gone from his pocket. Emily, she's got it, he said. Tonight it belongs with her. Vivian nodded, serious as a vow. Good. By late afternoon, the board had voted the last resolution. Hale Strategic was severed. The relief fund paid 2 more quiet invoices. Torres sent a memo naming Rosa Devon and Tanya the quiet heroes and attached gift cards that didn't come with a press release. Vivian stood at her office glass and watched the city throw its noise at Stone Tower again. It didn't bounce this time. It passed through a place that had chosen clarity over spin and people over story. Diligence over drama, she said aloud. Jack, already halfway to the stairwell for his evening walk, turned back. And doors that don't lie. They held each other's gaze a second longer than business requires. Then they went to their work hers in rooms with votes, his in hallways with hinges, each carrying a piece of the other's sentence. On the skyline, the tower didn't gleam. It breathed. 3 mornings later, the city felt ordinary on purpose. School buses hissed. Dogs tugged leashes. Jack walked Emily to PS 214, the long way past the bakery that smells like Saturday, even on a Tuesday. At the corner, a delivery van's side door slid open with a metallic rush. Emily flinched, then forced her shoulders down. She looked up at Jack. He didn't pretend not to see. "Brave isn't the same as easy," he said. "I know," she whispered. They stopped near the crossing guard. Jack knelt so the world had fewer inches to tower. "What do we do when the scary noise shows up?" Emily put her palm on his sleeve, found the rhythm of his breathing. "Count to 4 in. Hold 2. Out 6. "Good," he said. "And what's the job?" She glanced at the kindergartners wobbling past with oversized backpacks. "Protect, not perform." He smiled. "Exactly." She pulled the scuffed baseball from her bag, squeezed it once, then slipped it back. "Throw, when it matters," she murmured, and walked through the school gate without looking over her shoulder. Progress sometimes sounds like nothing. At Stone Tower, Vivian met with Compliance Legal and Torres and made decisions she didn't let the room dilute. Vendor rules tightened. Camera access required 2 signatures and a guard. No internal decks could include faces of children ever. Crossing guards for Emily's corner were funded for a year quietly. After she sent a company-wide note that fit on one screen. "We tell the truth. We repair what we failed to see. We practice safety until it's muscle, not memo. If you did good work last week and no one noticed, I noticed." She signed it. Vivian, not CEO. Titles matter, names do more. Then she called Jack. "I'd like your counsel on something not in your playbook." He arrived in his work shirt sleeves, pushed keys quiet. Vivian placed a thin folder on the table. "The Morales Courage Scholarship," she said. "Trades or community college. Children of fallen firefighters or EMTs. Full tuition gap expenses covered books, tools, transit. Selection run by a panel at Ladder Wien 18. I fund the endowment. We start this year." Jack didn't touch the folder. "Ben Morales," he said, testing the name like a tooth you haven't been ready to bite with. He hated long ceremonies. He loved ugly coffee and new gloves. Then, no ceremony, Vivian said. Just letters that arrive when they matter. He stared at the window for a beat, then sat. Terms, he said gently, because grief needs rules. No photo walls. Money moves fast. Application is short. Preference for kids who work while they study. And the first letter goes to Ben's daughter before the press release goes to anyone. "Done," Vivian said. "And no press release unless she wants one." He nodded once. "Thank you." "It's not charity," she said. "It's debt. I've built towers on ground other people kept from burning." He exhaled. Some weights move when someone else names them. That night, Jack cooked spaghetti with too much garlic and just enough humor. Emily set 3 places without asking if the 3rd plate meant anything permanent. Vivian arrived in sneakers and a jacket that didn't care about boardrooms. She took one look at the apartment, the plant that keeps trying the magnet-choked fridge, the baseball on the windowsill, and understood why quiet felt like oxygen. "It smells like someone meant to feed people," she said. "It's my one specialty," Jack said. "Noodles and not lying to kids." They ate. Emily recapped the school day in facts, not feelings as children do when feelings are still hot. Mrs. Lang let her draw a map of the quiet route for the class. 2 boys apologized for saying heroes wear capes. Emily said she accepted the apology but disagreed with the premise. "Good sentence," Vivian said. After dishes, Emily fetched the small cloth pouch from her drawer and cupped it like a secret she both owned and borrowed. "Dad," she said, "if I keep the badge tonight, will you still be brave without it?" Jack swallowed. "Yes." "Me too," she said, satisfied with the logic. She tucked the pouch back and grabbed the baseball instead. "Can we throw for 5 minutes?" They went down to the courtyard, ringed by brick and bicycles. The sky held that quiet blue that cities sometimes get right before the streetlights decide. Jack stood 10 paces away and lifted his glove. Emily's first throw tailed off. The second hit his palm and popped like a good idea. The third she overcooked and laughed at herself. "Reset," Jack said. "Feet under you. Eyes up. Breathe. Then throw." She breathed, then threw. It hummed straight and true. Vivian clapped once before remembering she didn't want to make a ceremony out of family. "Want a turn?" Emily asked, holding the ball up to Vivian. I haven't thrown in years, Vivian said. Then it'll be funnier, Emily replied. They traded 7 gentle tosses. Vivian's first was high. Her second found a rhythm that belongs to bodies that learn, not boast. On the 8th, Emily snapped one quick and grinned like mischief. Vivian snagged it anyway. Okay, you're terrifying, Vivian said, laughing. Laughter in a courtyard can heal more than statements on a mezzanine. Jack watched them and recognized the shape of something he'd been careful not to want too soon. He didn't say it. He let it be a good thing breathing. Later, after homework and a chapter of a book about a girl who outwits a giant with patience instead of swords, Emily yawned a decision. I'm okay if Ms. Stone tucks me in, she said. Vivian looked to Jack as if the request belonged to a court. Your call, he said. Emily arranged her stuffed rabbit squash with the solemnity of a courtroom clerk placing evidence. Vivian pulled the blanket to Emily's chin, and without thinking like a CEO, smoothed a strand of hair behind the girl's ear. Can I ask a thing? Emily said. Ask Vivian, said. Were you scared in the fire? Yes. Me too, Emily said. But Dad says you can be scared and still be a helper. He's right, Vivian said. Emily considered this, then added as if closing a meeting. You can come to parent lunch Friday if you want. Vivian swallowed. Boards were easier. I want, she said. Bring the noodles, Emily added, already half asleep. The lamp clicked. The room shrank to a nightlight and a heartbeat. In the kitchen, Jack poured tea. Vivian wrapped her hands around the mug and stared at the steam like it was a place she might live someday. Ben would have liked your rules, he said quietly. Short forms, no banners, money when it matters. Then we'll keep them, she said, and if we fail at that, we fix it. He finished. A beat. You asked for terms, she added. I have one too. He met her eyes. If we keep doing this, me knowing your world, you knowing mine, we don't rush the naming. I want to be careful with Emily's map. I don't rush maps, he said. She nodded, relieved in a way that didn't make her smaller. Good. He rinsed a plate. She dried it. The domestic choreography sat on them like a borrowed coat that fit. Her phone buzzed a silent notification from legal confirming the scholarship paperwork had been filed and the fund endowed. She didn't look at the number. She looked at Jack. We start next semester, she said. Morales scholars. 5 the first year. Make it 6, he said, and took out his wallet. He slid a check across the counter without flourish. It wasn't billionaire money. It was single dad money. It meant the same weight. We'll match it, she said. Then double it. He almost argued. Then he didn't. On Wednesday, Drill 2 ran tighter. Bar brief first. Milk slowed no one. 10 minutes dropped to 9. Rosa owned her floor like she'd been born to hold space. Devon corrected a guest with a smile that felt like leadership. Tanya kept a family together with her hands, not her voice. Jack's clipboard had fewer lines on the fix column and more on the praise. After Vivian called the 3 of them into a small conference room and handed each a plain envelope. No cameras, no speech. Gift cards, Rosa asked, surprised, and a note, Vivian said. There's no plaque attached. It mean we did good, Devon said simply. It means we saw you, Vivian corrected. They left smiling, the kind of smile that doesn't require hashtags. That evening, Jack and Emily walked to the river. The warehouse at Dock 37 sat fenced, cooling into steel honesty. Emily squeezed his hand once, not because she needed to cross a street, but because rituals keep you from counting the wrong things. Do you think the bad people think about what they did? She asked. I think they think about getting caught, he said. I think we think about getting better. She nodded as if that split the world into columns that made sense. On the way home, they passed Stone Tower. Its glass caught the last light and made it gentle. Vivian texted parent lunch confirmed. I'll bring noodles that won't embarrass us. Then, PS Scholarship website is live. First application came in 12 minutes after launch. A kid named Jaden wants to be an EMT. Jack sent back a photo of the courtyard ball sitting by the window like a promise. Start with the kid who starts fast, he wrote. Agreed, she replied. Also, Friday night, rooftop, after sunset. I want to show you both something." Jack looked at Emily's cap on the table, the badge pouch on her dresser, the city out the window that had tried to scare them small and failed. "Rooftop." "It is," he said aloud and felt the room widen. In the quiet that followed, wounds did what they do when they get clean air and steady hands they knit. Not invisibly, not quickly, just right. 6 months later, the city ran on small, kindly habits. Crossing guards waved. Stone tower drilled like scales, clean, steady, unshowy. Guests didn't notice. That was the point. Jack Carter wore a new badge, head of security Stone Properties, but he still kept the old keys. He walked the building at dawn, greeted Rosa, nodded to Devon, fixed the hinge Tanya flagged before anyone else heard it complain. Floor captains ran their checklists without clipboards. The bar always got briefed first. The Morales Courage Scholarship sent its first letters, quiet envelopes, no photo wall. Ben Morales' daughter wrote back a thank you that made Jack sit down. Jaden, bound for EMT classes, promised, "I'll make people safer for a living." The note lived on Jack's fridge next to a math quiz and a skyline drawn with a red cap in the corner. Richard Hale's case slid from headlines to a docket number. The city put him on a calendar and kept going. On a Friday, rinsed in clear winter sun, Vivian texted rooftop after sunset. "Dress warm. Bring the cap and the baseball." Emily packed both like Talisman's badge pouch in her jacket ball in her glove. "We aren't bringing the badge because we need it," she told Jack. "We're bringing it because it remembers." They took the service elevator that opened on a door marked Maintenance. Wind met them clean and true. The roof stretched like a quiet stage above the traffic. Far to the south, a low brick bay with a flag Jack knew by heart caught the last stripe of gold. "The firehouse," Emily said. "Ladder 118. Jack answered. He didn't name ghosts. He named the work. Vivian had set 3 camp chairs and a thermos. Navy coat hair down, no pretense. "I promised you a view," she said, "and a better ending to the night we met." Emily slid a hand into her pocket and felt the bronze badge. It was heavy, in a good way like responsibility that fits. She left it there. Comfort doesn't need witnesses. So Vivian said, pouring cocoa, 2 quiet updates. The scholarship is permanent, and the company handbook now begins with 6 verbs. Jack's verbs call, guide, hold, check, praise, protect. Jack made a face like a man surprised to see his handwriting in print. Buildings behave better when words are short. "People do too," Vivian said. They sat. The river said its low old song. All the flashy endings a billionaire could buy would have felt cheap next to this 3 chairs hot cocoa, a skyline that kept its promises by showing up. "Parent lunch was good," Emily offered. Mrs. Lang asked what bravery is. I said it's keeping your hand out even when you're scared someone won't take it. Everyone got quiet. Then they didn't laugh. That was my favorite part. Vivian swallowed. "That's a world-class answer." "It's our families," Emily said. Jack rolled the baseball in his palm, then lifted his glove. 10 throws on a roof, Vivian teased. "Short arcs," he said, already calculating rail height. "Tonight, we aim small." Emily set her feet, breathed in for 4, held for 2, sent the ball. It hit Jack's glove with that soft pop Hope makes when it lands. He returned it a quiet curve that asked for focus, not muscle. On the 3rd toss, Emily pivoted to Vivian. "Your turn. I'm off the roster," Vivian protested. "You're on mine," Emily said, offering the ball. Vivian weighed it. The leather felt like work done right. Her first throw sailed. The second found a line that said she decided not to be careful with joy. For a minute, the roof was a triangle of trust, child to father, father to woman, woman to child, each throw a small promise kept. They stopped when the sky bruised purple and 1,000 windows made the city look like it was breathing. Emily tucked the ball inside her cap and slid both into her bag, then patted her pocket where the badge rested. Past and future sharing a coat. Vivian stepped to the parapet. "I've spent my life winning rooms," she said softly. "Lately I'm learning how to keep them. It feels better." Keeping beats winning, Jack said. It lasts. She met his eyes. I don't want to rush the naming, but I don't want to pretend this is anything less than a family. Then we'll build it like we build drills, he said. Repeat what matters. Cut what doesn't. We'll be boring in the ways that keep people safe. Emily nested her chin on the stone between them. Does being a family mean movie nights and noodles on Tuesdays? It means we keep showing up, Vivian said. Also, noodles. Good, Emily said. Noodles help with bravery. Below the lobby made small mercies routine. Rosa walked a lost tourist to the right elevator. Devon passed a glass of water to a guest who didn't know thirst could be a kind thing to notice. Vivian took a breath. One more thing, she said. I moved 8 blocks from here. No staff, no driver, just walls that don't echo. If you ever want a shorter walk to Noodles— You're asking us to be neighbors, Emily said. I'm asking us to be close enough to borrow sugar and return it as cookies, Vivian said. Jack grinned. That's an advanced drill. We can learn it. Wind tugged at coat hems and every idea that had been too heavy for too long. The firehouse siren wailed once and quit a test, not a call. Somewhere, a kid named Jaden loaded a medic bag into a van. Somewhere, a crossing guard lifted a palm that said, "Not now." Emily took the badge out and looked at it in the last blue light. I think I'll keep this in my drawer tonight, she said, deciding out loud. I don't need to hold it to be brave. Jack nodded, eyes wet and unashamed. That's the whole lesson. Vivian held out both hands, palms up, no speech. Emily took one. Jack took the other. For a breath that reached from an old warehouse to a future courtyard, they stood in a line that felt like shelter. Ready, Jack asked. For what Emily said. For throwing when it matters, Vivian answered, smiling. Emily lifted the baseball again just to feel the weight. She tossed it to Jack. He caught it and passed it to Vivian. Vivian rolled it once in her palm, then lobbed it back to the girl who will teach other people how to make hallways wide. The ball arced across the last of the light, a small bright thing moving the only direction that makes sense forward. And now, dear friends, this is where our story closes. But the message lingers far beyond the pages. Sometimes the bravest act isn't running into flames, it's holding on to someone's hand when fear tries to tear it away. Have you ever witnessed or lived through a moment where courage and love shone brighter than fear? We'd love to hear your story. Share it with us in the comments below and let us know where you're watching from. Your voice, your experience might just inspire someone else who needs a little light tonight. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join us for more tales of hope, healing, and the incredible strength of everyday people. Thank you for spending this time with us. Until the next story, stay kind, stay brave, and always remember, throw when it matters.